What's up? Alright guys, welcome back to the channel. We've got D-Boogie back.
What's up, y'all?
Been a while since he's been on the channel. We just had a pretty productive day getting some work done for some of the projects we're working on. So the people do want to know, what did you end up applying to for residency?
Yeah, so actually initially I was anesthesia, which is what Sean ended up applying to at the end. And then, so I ended up choosing radiology. I can't recommend any more doing sub-internships in anything that you're interested in your fourth year, because that kind of led me to realize that anesthesia wasn't for me and that radiology would be definitely for me.
So, anesthesia, radiology, and hopefully we both have a good match week.
Yeah.
It's coming up, just a few more months, which is pretty exciting. With being so close to match day, DePaul and I have done a lot of reflecting in this time, thinking back to what medical school has been like. Now that we've had a chance to kind of slow down and actually
really take it all in.
There's been tons of ups, probably even more downs.
More downs, I would say.
But it's been a growing process for sure. We thought we'd sit down today and kind of give you guys some of our advice for any of you guys who are currently in medical school, or for any of you guys who are planning to go to medical school in the future. So I think number one, like probably one of the most important tips for me at least, would be to just relax. Stop panicking. This is a tough process. Everyone's gonna have a different experience, and you're gonna maybe have some unfortunate things happen throughout this entire process. But I think maintaining a level head, realizing that many have done this before us and many are going to be doing this after us. It's good to remember, this isn't a novel experience for most. There are people who have done it, listen to them, and try to just take, everything day by day and not freak out about every detail. And people who go into this are typically type A, so it's kind of hard to get them to relax and not complain about everything. But that's, I don't know, one of my most important tips for you guys.
So tip number 2 that ended up being like really important for me, especially as I went deeper into medical school, is having something consistent that I can do day by day that isn't medicine, where I can, last hour of my day, I'll end up playing some chess, or I'll do video games with Sean and our friends. And it's just a way to remind myself that, medicine is not my life. I could have woken up at 5:30 in the morning for a surgery rotation, but I'm still going to try to get in like a half hour to an hour of games at night. Medicine isn't all that there is. It's important to keep up with your other activities.
Yeah, keep up with your hobbies. If you're really physically active, keep up with that. If you have something you really enjoy, keep doing that. Make it part of your schedule. Make it just as important as your classes, studying, clinicals, everything else. That's the only way you'll really keep up with those things throughout these 4 years. And
looking to where we are at now, some of those hobbies that, I mentioned, playing chess or playing video games, that all comes out during your residency interviews. So you want to ensure that you kind of have something to talk about when they ask you those questions and try to get to know you as a person. And they don't want to hear that you've just been studying and sleeping and going to rotation and studying and sleeping and going to rotation.
Yeah. No one likes that. That's boring.
Yeah.
You look boring if you do that. The third tip is to not get overwhelmed about all the resources you can use in medical school. You're going to see classmates saying that they're using X, Y, and Z, and you're going to have someone else saying, oh no, I'm using these resources, you got to use these, and then you're going to be a little stressed, especially during first year.
So, some people prefer lecture, some people prefer reading, some people prefer flashcards. Really, any of your learning modalities can apply when you're studying, and it's not that one is better than the other. You really just cannot get overloaded by trying to do all of it.
Because if you try to do all the resources, you'll never finish any resource. There's so many question banks, so many lecture materials. It's too much. So it's better just to hone in on a few things that you can complete and focus on that. Like finish one lecture resource, find one spaced repetition resource, find one question bank that you can commit to and complete, and then see how that goes, and then shift things as you go. Don't try to fit everything in to like one study schedule for one exam, because you just won't finish any of them. You're going to be overwhelmed and stressed.
I found it very helpful for me to alternate between lecture, flashcards, and like a visual source, and then just keep stacking that over and over again, so I would get different versions of the information kind of all back together, and it made studying a little bit more interesting, had a little bit more variety, and I think you can cover a lot more topics in different ways.
So if you had to pick a resource, what do you think would be a 100% you need to use this resource throughout medical school?
Bar none, I think this is an indispensable resource. It has to be Sketchy.
Well, the crazy thing about you saying that is Sketchy is actually sponsoring this video. I probably don't even have to explain what Sketchy is to you guys. You've seen me use it, you've seen me talk about it. But for those of you who do not know, Sketchy is a scientifically backed visual learning platform that utilizes visual memory techniques to turn complex concepts into unforgettable experiences. These visual memory techniques make the symbols especially sticky and scientifically easier and quicker to recall.
Yeah, I think most med students would also agree that Sketchy is probably the gold standard resource, whether it's for micro, for pharmacology, pathology.
And not only do they have things for medical students, but they actually have a ton of modules for pre-med students, and they even have an entire MCAT section, which is perfect because MCAT season is definitely coming up, and I think that that would have been amazing to have when we were studying for our MCAT.
I agree. Personal experience, I was not classic pre-med, and I just had no idea how to study for the MCAT. And, having a resource that I know now is such high quality as Sketchy would have been so helpful.
And one of my favorite things about Sketchy is they have quizzes for every single video, which is perfect so you can actually test and make sure that you're learning things. Seriously, guys, Sketchy is a must-have resource. Besides bugs and drugs, they cover biochem, A&P, they have clinical stuff like surgery, toxicology, and so much more. Like I said, that MCAT section just would have been so clutch, and I highly recommend it to any of you pre-meds out there. Sketchy MCAT has two plans, a science only and a prep essentials. The Prep Essentials includes the Sciences and Cars course along with the AAMC material, including the question banks and practice exams. And Sketchy is actually having a 25% off sale between January 3rd and January 17th, which again is perfect for MCAT season and for anyone else who's been thinking about getting Sketchy, so make sure to check it out. Thank you so much again to Sketchy for sponsoring this video and for being such an important resource to us as we've gone through medical school. All right, it's getting a little hot in here, so let's turn the AC on a little bit. All these hot tips are really driving the temperature up here.
So I think the next big tip for me, at least, is not being super worried about what you want to do super early on into even pre-med or medical school. I'm the kind of person that every core subject that I took, I was super infatuated with. I wanted to do neurology. I wanted to do internal medicine.
Yeah, you went through a lot of different phases. I think me too as well.
Yeah. And, I only ended up really deciding to do radiology probably a couple months before applications were due. Really there's no rush. You have ample time, especially in your fourth year of medical school.
Yeah.
We had a ton of elective time where we could explore what we wanted to do.
Yeah, I went through a similar thing where I was between things like peds, EM, oncology. Yeah. We talked about medicine. But yeah, guys, don't be stressed if you don't know what you want to do exactly. It's perfectly fine to just have the goal of becoming a doctor in mind, and then you'll figure it out as you go.
Yeah, and I would say especially don't let other people or mentors that you currently have influence too much of what you want to do, because you can really get hung up on, say you wanted to do surgery and you had a good surgery mentor, you can really get hung up on their advice and feel like you owe, your mentor something by going into their field. It really is an individual decision.
Yeah. Okay, so another good tip that I think is really important is making not only good friendships, but also ones that are only going to boost you throughout your time in medical school. So DePaul and I, we're good friends. You guys have seen that on camera, but that extends far outside of YouTube and school. We hang out all the time. We talk almost every single day. We play video games pretty much every single night.
Yeah.
And although it's been a good friendship, for us, socially and mentally, it's also been really beneficial throughout our time in medical school.
Yeah, I mean, I remember, we were making end of chapter study guides for our block exams, or
research projects.
Yeah, research projects.
We've done most of our research together.
I would say 95% of our research has some combination of DePaul Patel, Sean Anderson, or Sean Anderson, DePaul Patel, right at the authors.
Exactly. We've done things like YouTube. We've been working on that research course together, volunteer work, different sorts of healthcare advocacy positions that we've held, different organizations throughout. It's been a really good 1 + 1 = 3 friendship, in the sense that benefited us academically, but it also was just a good, time throughout it, and it really made the experience so much better. So my tip is find that person or find those people that are just going to really boost your experience, that you want to be around, that motivate you, that don't compare you to them or, make you feel like you're less than them, because it's a long journey. You need a good support system, and it's great when that support system just boosts your experience and makes you an overall better student.
Yeah. So another tip that kind of I realize now has been super important is just be nice and be pleasant to really anybody and everybody, whether it's, school janitors or housing staff, even to your professors that you have in your preclinical years, to the attendings that you're dealing with in your clinical rotations. Just be nice, be professional, be courteous. It goes such a long way to, forming positive connections, making sure that you are slightly higher on the tip of somebody's tongue when they're talking about good students. It doesn't have to be so personally motivated as I have to suck up to anybody and everybody, but, as we're interviewing for residency, one of the most common advices that, we're being given is be nice to everybody. Nobody wants a negative Nancy. Nobody wants a black cloud on their team or on their service.
No, totally. Super well said. Just be a good person. Be the kind of person you'd want to work with.
Yeah.
And it'll go a long way in terms of connections, in terms of letters, and just making it a good experience for yourself and the people around you that have to deal with you for the next few years.
Say hi to the nurses that you see on the station. Say hi to the residents. And say hi to attendings. Be pleasant. I think that all goes a long way into securing an eventual letter of recommendation or opening doors that may have not been open to you.
So my next tip would be, you're going to feel stupid every single day. Get over it. One of the things about this journey is you're a student, you're a learner.
Yeah.
No matter what, you're going to be in this learner position for a long time. And with that comes you not knowing a lot of things. If you're going through a surgery rotation, for example, you're there because you're learning as a medical student. You're studying for your shelf exams. You still don't know most things about surgery compared to the attendings who have been doing it for their entire life. They're going to ask you questions. You're not going to know the answer. You're going to feel stupid. You're going to do something cringeworthy that keeps you up at night. You're going to feel stupid. Honestly, by fourth year, I'm pretty sure I was just completely over that. Like I could say I don't know or answer a question wrong. Didn't faze me.
I'm comfortable saying I don't know now. Where in your first 2-3 years of med school, you feel such a pressure to know everything, have answers to everything, or answer the attending with what should be the correct answer. But it's better to be late and right rather than immediate and wrong. And that goes, across the board wherever we've worked.
Totally.
Yeah. Another useful tip that I kind of learned as I went on through med school is taking advantage of your downtime and making the most of it. And that can really look like any variety of different things for different people. I, for example, really enjoy having days where I can just veg out, sleep for 12 hours, not do anything. And that's my idea of a vacation. By the time I am back on rotation or back at school, I get bored of doing nothing, so that, there's a little bit of more of a fire when I get back into the swing of things.
Yeah, I think the personalities that this field attracts, you feel lazy if you're not doing something.
Yeah.
When you have downtime, you're like, oh, I should do this. I actually was meeting with my mentee the other day, and she was asking me for advice on her CV and to look over some research projects that we've been working on. And I was like, please make sure you're enjoying your Christmas break. She was texting me on Christmas, and I was like, come on, you gotta relax. We can do all this later. You gotta enjoy your breaks.
You will have less and less vacation time as med school goes on.
Exactly. Until fourth year.
And
then every day is a vacation relative to what we've been doing for the past
Let's just say you can optimize your schedule in fourth year.
Yes. So yeah, guys, if you have a break, take advantage of it. Don't feel lazy. Think of it as something you've earned rather than just downtime.
Yeah, and do what you want to do. I really did want to lie in bed all day and just watch anime. Do I think of myself as lazy for that? Probably, but I got bored of that, so that when I came back and wanted to do work, it was a lot more like, you know, organic.
Yeah,
and
I feel more rejuvenated.
Yeah, I reset a little bit.
Yeah. Another big one is taking care of your health, your body, both physically and mentally. I've talked about this in several videos. Med school is tough, and you're gonna drop activities that are beneficial for you, like working out, exercising, and eating well, because of convenience and time restrictions.
Yeah.
Like I've said on my channel, I gained weight on 2 different occasions throughout medical school. I've gained weight and lost weight, and it's terrible for not just your physical health, but your mental health. You know, thinking about the fact that you're gaining weight, you're getting less physically active, you start getting more emotional. It's not a good thing.
I think, you know, in a vacuum, if we all had the time, we'd like to do these things.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes like, you know, now it's a matter of like, how highly do I prioritize it and, you know, incorporate it into the 24 hours a day that I have. Because, you know, at baseline, med school just makes you so much busier.
Yeah.
You have so many more time requirements. And, you know, on a more personal note, at least for me, is I had a really big shoulder surgery that I was putting off since college, really. And the only thing that kind of spurred me to actually do the surgery was I was talking to our dean, and he was saying, well, you know, you're going to have to hold a retractor for like hours at a time on these cases. And I was like, well, crap, maybe I do need this surgery after all.
Yeah.
But the moral of that story is be proactive about, you know, taking like longer, more chronic health issues under control, because, you know, it's very easy to wait until like a real deadline and have to rush everything. But, you know, I wish I could have, you know, been in recovery throughout med school and have a much better shoulder, you know, even now.
Honestly, at the end of the day, like, none of this is worth it if you're unhealthy and unhappy.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't be sacrificing, you know, more than what we already are to be doing this. And I think that if you go in with the idea that your physical and your mental health is a top priority and nothing is worth affecting it, damaging it, I think you're going to be better off in the long run, even if it means you study less, or, you know, you get less research, volunteer work, extracurricular, whatever it is, like throughout medical school. It's all going to pay dividends.
Yeah. And I mean, we know people who are out here getting, you know, like honors on everything and running triathlons in their free time.
Yeah,
like,
it's possible.
It's possible, and people do it. And
wasn't me, but
no. I was getting PRs in Overwatch.
Right. Hey, that is actually not a bad thing. I did go on an interview a few weeks ago, and one of my interviewers, the attending for this program, asked me who I play in Overwatch. Nice. Because he used to play. So it all
ties in. It all ties in.
It all comes full circle. So focus on the important things.
So kind of on the subject of, you know, being more well-rounded, that med school isn't really everything. I think it's really important, at least, you know, for my own sanity, and now that we're interviewing and coming across people who are really like looking at our applications and seeing if we're a good fit, is, you know, have a longitudinal thing that you can do throughout your years that just isn't related to medicine at all. For example, you know, Sean and I came together and we did some advocacy stuff because we were really passionate about that for a while.
Yeah.
And, you know, over the last like 2.5 years, we've been writing this research course and filming it and doing whatever needs to be done, you know, for a course.
Yeah. And
none of that is related to medicine per se, but, you know, when somebody goes in and takes a look at your application, they see you as so much more well-rounded. And, you know, I can truly say that the bits and pieces that I've taken from those experiences, they have translated really well into, you know, how I approach my day-to-day as a med student.
Yep. My next piece of advice is kind of on the topic of relaxing and not comparing yourself to others. But if you're watching this video and you're watching other medical school YouTubers like me, don't compare yourself to them.
What is that? Comparison is the thief of joy?
It is. And I think that's some of the issues with people who post medical school videos and routines and vlogs online. I'm not calling anyone out, because I probably contribute to this as well, is that it's not super relatable all the time.
Yeah.
Like, you might watch a medical student vlog and say like, oh wow, they're so productive. They spend every minute of the day like getting work done. They wake up at like 5 a.m. You know, they go to the gym, they do yoga, they study all day, they go to their classes, clinicals.
You might be seeing the most glorified and productive day that person has had in a month.
Exactly, because if you're filming, there's a bias. And again, I've probably contributed to this kind of stigma. You know, we're only going to show the good stuff. And I've always tried to show that it's not always productive, but obviously that might not always like be the case. And when you're editing, you usually don't want to keep that stuff in, but it's important to, because it sets false expectations. It almost like romanticizes the field, which I don't like. You know,
No.
TV shows already do that, and I hate it. And I do think a lot of us medical school YouTubers contribute to that, where we kind of romanticize this and make it look fun and wow, it's great. And we are happy to be here.
Yeah.
We're happy we did this and all that, but it was really hard work. And if we make it look elegant and easy, it's not. But on video, it will. So please don't, you know, compare yourself to myself or any other med school YouTuber. Don't look at what we do in a day in the life or vlog and think that needs to be you every day, because most of the time I would say it's not realistic, and it's probably a little factitious and not fully transparent.
Or you could do what I do, and I am a firm believer that I don't want to consume any sort of medical content outside of my actual studies.
Absolutely.
So I don't watch any med school YouTubers. I don't watch any days in the life.
Except for
Sean.
Yeah.
But it really helps me to compartmentalize what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And leave time for just a mental reset when I'm doing things that I actually want to do, and it doesn't give me anxiety.
Yeah, I appreciate anyone who supports the channel, and for anyone who supports other medical school creators. I've got tons of friends in the space, but you don't need to fill your downtime with
more of the same thing.
Yeah, definitely, I don't know. I just do it in moderation, or don't do it at all. It's important to just not compare yourself to unrealistic expectations and standards.
So I think another important tip is, at the end of the day, you should really like have an understanding and know why you really got into medicine in the first place. I think we all have a core reason as to why we want to be in this field. Everybody's gonna say that they want to help somebody, but it probably is more selfish than that and more personal than that. For me, when the days are tough and it sucks, school sucks, rotating sucks, the thing that keeps me coming back and waking up every morning is I find all of this just cool and fascinating, and I want to learn more about it. And that's despite having been on maybe 4 hours of sleep for a month and malnourished and things like that. I think it's really important for you to find that one or two things that you really can look at and say, no, this is why I'm doing this, and draw a lot of motivation from that.
Yeah, you're gonna have a lot of moments that suck, and you're gonna be unhappy, sad, tired, and wonder maybe why you're doing this, but just never forget the reason you got into this in the first place. Like you said, it's different for everyone, but you need something to ground yourself, because you're gonna have a lot of moments that make you question, why am I doing this to myself? When you see all your other friends enjoying their lives and having free time and not taking any work home and studying, you gotta just remind yourself of the why.
You should be able to answer, why do I get up every morning? Right? Because it's not just that you're in medical school. It has to be something else fundamentally.
You'll especially forget the why when you're getting up in the morning on surgery and rounding. As you can tell, surgery is our favorite rotation. So my next tip is to make time for friends and family. You're going to have a million reasons and excuses for why you're busy, why you can't go out tonight.
Oh, I've got an exam next week, or oh, I'm behind on this.
You're going to be behind on everything, and you're going to have something coming up always. But, when you look back on this entire experience, whether it's pre-med or medical school, you're going to think back on your memories with friends and family, with loved ones, your significant others, that's what's important.
Those are the experiences that, will continue to carry with you. Not that you stayed up an extra 2 hours to study for that bio exam and maybe did a percentage or two better. Exactly. It's important. A lot of our friends and family can't relate with this particular experience.
and they don't know what you're going through. They'll ask you about school. They'll ask you how it's going. They'll say,
how many times have you been asked to explain the match to somebody?
exactly, and like why I still have so many years of school left, and how long you've been, like, that's fine. You can't expect people to understand. That's why a lot of us confide in friends that we make along the path, but just make sure you spend time with them. You'll never get that time back, and it's a long, 4 years, 8 years, including undergrad and then residency. A lot happens in that time.
Yeah.
People are gonna have weddings, you're gonna have family members, pass away. It's important to focus on those things. You'll never get this time back.
Along that same point, I would say, don't forget about the friends that you made earlier, whether it's in middle school, high school, undergrad. Like, those connections are just as important to you and your well-being as the connections you're making currently in med school, for example. Like, I'm looking forward to a wedding next year where, my roommate for all 4 years at USC, he's getting married to, the same girl that he was dating since high school. Right? Like, it's, for me, it's like really important to, stay up to date with those kinds of things.
Yeah.
Because, an adult relationship doesn't mean that you guys have to see each other every day, even though that's what Sean and I do.
We kind of do.
But, it's about checking in on the people that are important to you, regardless of how long ago it was.
Exactly. All right, we have 8% battery left on this video. Any last minute tips you can think of? That's a rookie YouTuber mistake is not charging your camera battery before you film a 41-minute video.
It's kind of like my last thing, and it's super big. Hitting on the same themes that we kind of been discussing is, really understanding that it really is more about the journey than the actual destination. I think of the example, like, what do they call the pre-med or the med student who graduated at the top of their class, and what do they call the one who graduated at the bottom of their class? They still call them doctors.
Yep.
Right? Like this entire process is very, it's intentionally militaristic. It's designed to, make you cry and grieve and, just be out of your comfort zone for such a long period of time. But I think it's important to realize that it is not just you. It is you, your peers, everybody around you who's going through the same thing. And, just having the ability to take a step back and say, well, I'm not at the top of my class, I'm not at the bottom of my class, I'm just going to get through this day by day. I think that's really important.
Absolutely. I have nothing to contribute to that. That was so beautifully well stated. All right, guys, so the camera's going to die, so it's probably it for this video, but I hope you guys enjoyed this list of kind of just tips that we've just taken from our own experience. Again, none of this was scripted.
Not rehearsed at all.
This was just us sitting down and kind of talking out what we felt was just some of the most important takeaways when we reflect back on our medical school experience. And hopefully, if you've been watching these vlogs and you've watched this video, you can kind of appreciate that there's a lot more to focus on than what might necessarily just be right in front of you. And hopefully you just don't make some of the same mistakes we have, and you can take these lessons and utilize them for yourself. If you guys want a part 2 and you want more tips, because there's probably an endless amount that we could talk about all day, let us know in the comments section below. Also, one last shout out to Sketchy for sponsoring this video. Again, guys, they are such an incredible pre-med and medical student resource, whether you're studying for the MCAT or you're studying for your shelf exams, your step exams in medical school. Sketchy has just been that resource that almost everyone I know has really appreciated, and
it's so unique. What they do amazingly.
Exactly.
And it really is indispensable.
Absolutely. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. We will see you guys in the next one.